Hi, welcome to AI for UX. This is the space where UX researchers and product leaders stay current with AI innovations. I'm John Whalen, the founder of Brilliant Experience, and we're a psychology driven product innovation firm. So, personally, I've struggled to keep up with all the AI tools for UX research, and I'm guessing I'm not alone, and that's why I started the series. In each installment, we speak to a founder of one of the latest AI enhanced research tools and dive into the inspiration for it and how it might benefit you. Um, a quick note that these videos are not product endorsements, and Brilliant pays full price for any technologies we use, and no one's getting paid. It's just to learn more about new technologies together. So with that, let's get started. So I'd like to welcome Michael. So Michael Bamberger is the founder of Tetra, and it's a tool that lets researchers automatically generate insights from qualitative data. So thanks so much for agreeing to do this interview and talk to us.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the invitation. I'm excited to chat more.
Cool. Well, let's dive right in. I think Tetra is really interesting and has so many possibilities. So maybe you can just tell the audience, what your sort of target audience is for your product and sort of the core pain points it addresses. I apologize.
Yeah, well, one of the really interesting things, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a few moments, is how much technology has changed what it means to do research or generate customer or user insights. So originally, when we started Tetra back in 2019, we were focused on user experience researchers and product designers and product management teams and groups inside companies. But now we found that primary customer user research is being done across an organization by
Mhm.
sales groups, marketing groups, even executives themselves are doing some primary research these days. So now I'd say our target audience are people who are conducting primary qualitative research to generate insights and understanding about any issue.
Wow, it's interesting how the breadth of that. And so, in general, we know what are the benefits? Like, how does your product help those people with answering their questions?
Fundamentally, I think the key things a platform like Tetra help with is to make human work faster and to amplify its impact. So when I think about
Mm.
why Tetra even exists for our users, it's to make them more effective at their job. So either that's getting them better data or improving their processes around using that data. So fundamentally, for people who are using Tetra and companies that are using Tetra, they either have lots of data they're trying to make sense of quickly, and they're trying to be very efficient with how their people are spending their time on this research and insight work. So generating insights, generating data faster and more effectively so that the human side of the work can really be amplified.
Nice. And so, just to be sort of concrete, is there, and I know that we'll get a chance to see Tetra in just a sec, but can you describe a representative scenario when a researcher, it sounds like a CEO or all sorts of different people might use your tool?
Absolutely. So I'd say the most easy to understand use case would be generative research, where there's a broad area where someone wants to do some deep learning about a topic. So, for example, we've had executives at some of our large global organizations where they're pursuing a new strategy and they want to talk to, let's say, a specific customer segment they don't have access to. So let's say it's a financial services company trying to build mid-market products that they've never done before. They would use a platform like Tetra to source people to talk to. I want to talk to directors or VPs at middle market companies who are dealing with finance issues, for example. And then through our
Mhm.
platform, they can plan their research, so create research materials and guides, collaborate with their team on what questions to ask and how they're going to conduct their research. And then they can actually do their interviews live through Tetra. So we have live interview tools where they would conduct the conversation, they could annotate and tag it in real time, collaborate with their team in real time during these conversations. And then when the conversations are done, they could either analyze it themselves manually or use our AI tools for analysis. So going
Mhm.
from basically wanting to learn about an issue or about a topic area, all the way through doing research and then analyzing and presenting those findings is what they could do on our platform.
And honestly, in learning your tool, I feel like I could answer this question, but um, what makes Tetra sort of unique? Because there are other sort of research repository tools. So, but there's the whole process there. And what are the things that you feel makes Tetra stand out?
To me, there's a few key pieces of functionality and how we've thought about our software that really separate it from other competitors. One of the first things is our holistic approach to data collection. So, other platforms out there that are just for analysis or for repository require you to originate the data elsewhere. And we have found working with enterprise companies that the more disparate systems you use, the more difficult it is to actually implement processes that work and scale. So, in Tetra, you can not just analyze and store your data and search through it. You can also generate it. So sourcing participants, executing the research, in addition to having repository features, is a big differentiator. Further,
Mhm.
one of the key things we've learned, and this goes back to something I mentioned a moment ago, is use cases have expanded inside organizations that rely on insights and research. So, where they may have only been doing primary research that's very focused, they're going out and proactively generating data. We've built a feature set, which is our TetraBot calendar integration and some other automation tools that allows an organization to take any of their qualitative data and use it for research and insights purposes. So, for example, we have clients that will install TetraBot across their sales team or their customer success team, and now all of those
Yeah.
meetings and conversations can be used for research and insights. So, there's a lot of advantages to this. One is the cost of research goes down dramatically. Instead of having to source participants, incentivize them, and all of the time invested by a team on research operations and logistics, now a byproduct of your daily business operations is creating non-synthetic data, real organic interaction data, which in many ways is more valuable than the type of synthetic data or simulated data you get through typical primary research. So that's one advantage: better data, lower cost. The second huge advantage is that stakeholders inside an organization now become interested in research and qualitative data and insights. And by providing
Mhm.
simple tools like
Yeah.
connect us to your calendar and get an automated summary, or be able to use our chat feature to chat with about your conversation with AI, that brings non-researchers into the platform. So salespeople are there asking questions, generating follow-up emails, generating
Hmm.
reports, things like that. So I'd say the ability to collect more data and to do research and data collection and insight work as a whole org experience, from what we have seen in the marketplace and what our customers are coming for us for, those are some of the biggest differentiators. There's other ones as well, but those
Hmm.
are the ones that I think are most kind of transformative for our client works.
It is interesting. I'm hearing increasingly, as the tools get easier to use, the breadth of, yes, our, group that's thinking about mergers and acquisitions wants to use it, or our, take your pick. So it is interesting how this is broadening actually the impact of research as it should, and as they should have done, were they able to earlier. Well, I did want to ask you. We call this set of interviews AI for UX, and so you've had your tool for some time, and so maybe you can just tell me how AI is integrated into your tool.
So 2 years ago, we made a major decision at Tetra, which was to re-architect our platform from scratch. And there were two key reasons for that. One was we realized our data model was not extensible in terms of being able to generate insights across an organization. So we had to fix fundamentally our data structure, which allows a lot of functionality. Some of that functionality it allows is AI to be basically used across the platform. So that was the other big reason that we rebuilt the platform, was to make sure that AI could be percolated properly across the platform and consistently. So for us, AI is kind of a fundamental, I'd say, element inside the modern Tetra platform. We are primarily focused right now on automating analysis and insight extraction. So the majority of our features when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
AI are about giving you basically reports and answers to questions automatically and immediately, automatically structuring your data so you can
Mm-hmm.
apply a taxonomy automatically to any qualitative data, and then making that data really accessible. So that's our chat feature, our TetraBot chat feature, we call it, where you can have a large language model non-prompt based conversation thread about any of your data, actually up to 10,000 research assets at a time. So that's where the AI has really been deployed so far, but our roadmap is for even more inclusion throughout the application, which I can talk to in a bit.
Cool. Um, and so, one thing that I find, having tried these tools, it sort of opens my mind into what's possible. So, if I haven't used Tetra before, how should I think about working with a tool like yours, and how will I work differently from how I used to work? if that makes sense, and how I might even approach a problem or a question.
I think more than understanding how Tetra is useful in and of itself,
Mm-hmm.
it's really understanding how large language models are useful and how to get the maximum impact out of them. So, with a tool like Tetra, again, we focused on those analysis features. So, learning how to do great prompt writing, learning how to do threaded conversations, chain prompting, it's called, understanding how to provide the right context to the large language model so that its algorithms and how it work are going to give you the best information for you. That I actually think is the most critical part of figuring out how to use AI effectively. So fundamentally, if you're saying
Hmm.
we want to use AI to do our research and insight work, you should think about it in terms of improving quality. You should get better
Hmm.
quality when you're collaborating with an AI tool intelligently. You should also expect faster turnaround for everything. One of the most time consuming parts of any research work or any knowledge work is the origination of materials. The
Yeah.
origination, the feedback, the iteration, revisioning takes forever. And with a large language model that has the right context, which again, why using these tools properly is so important, it should take maybe be 3 days of origination work for research materials, screeners, surveys, interview guides, even report frameworks down to minutes. And then when it comes to analysis, one of the things we noticed historically is people would limit the scope of their research to make their analysis a lot more streamlined. And that definitely makes sense. That's something that I used to coach people on is be very scientific in your inquiries so that you're validating or invalidating and you're very specific about questions you're looking to answer. So you're not kind of fishing in a wide ocean for insights because that's very difficult to do. However, with these AI tools, the heavy lifting can be done for you. So you can be more explorative in your conversations. You could collect data that you don't even know how you might use because it might be helpful down the line, and you don't have to worry about the manual processes to turn that into value anymore, right? You can just query that data essentially through AI. So it's time savings number one, biggest thing. Improvement in quality is going to be your next big thing because you have access to more data in easier ways. But the caveat to that is these tools require an intelligent and knowledgeable operator, and that is the thing that I coach most of our users and customers on is the tools are only as powerful as the people who are wielding them. It's very easy to misuse them or to not
Mm-hmm.
get value from them. So it's the same thing like when we first built Tetra. Like, does Tetra solve all these research problems? It's one piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
People and process are far more important than the tools. With these AI infused tools, however, a lot of the people part of the
Mm-hmm.
equation has been removed because you've got a really smart, pseudo person,
Mm-hmm.
but the process part is still there. That is not going away anytime soon, from what I can see. So, yeah, kind of a convoluted answer to your question,
Yeah.
but I think there's a lot of upskilling required to use a platform like Tetra with maximum effectiveness, right? I think one of the challenges with large language models is it's kind of in a binary sense, you're always getting your work done, right? You
Mm-hmm.
could always get something done and get something out, but is it good? Is it right? Is it reliable? Is it actionable? That is going to be at the uh, that is going to depend largely on the operator of the large language model. I would
Hmm.
say the human involved.
Yeah, interesting. And I like hadn't thought as deeply about your note that you can do a little bit more fishing and not be sure when this is going to be useful, but you can go back and look for it essentially.
Yeah.
No, interesting. And in some ways, it's more reliable. If I'm right, you're saying it's more reliable because I can go back and look at the last 400 interviews rather than the last eight to see what we're seeing.
And for an example where you're bringing in organic data like sales data, if you as a
Mm,
product person are wondering, like, is this a pain point? Is this a reason we're not getting engagement with our application or activation? You can now go source that data organically and see what topics have come up in these sales conversations or in our customer success conversations. So it's giving you not just more data, but also potentially better data. I do, as a data person, I do have to say, like, this is equally valuable and dangerous because one of the big challenges with any data work is cherry picking evidence to support your positions, and that's going to happen regardless, but that can especially happen with large language models. So a large language model is biased to give you an answer, and to basically say yes. It's not necessarily the yes that's agreeing with you, but it's a yes that's going to help you
Mm-hmm.
move forward or make it feel like it's completed the task. So if you say, prove to me that this is an issue, it'll give you an answer. If you say, prove to me this is not an issue, it'll give you an answer.
Hmm.
Both equally viable, equally valuable. So again, it's got to be in the hands of a capable operator to be able to parse through that, to make sure you're learning what you think you are. So yeah, it's a
Okay.
great tool. And in some organizations, cherry picking data is the way to get things done, right? And that could actually be very
Mm-hmm.
effective. But we can't delude ourselves into thinking it's science. It's not. It's I don't know. It's something different.
Well,
I'm not
and
exactly sure what it is.
yeah, that's right. So what's the scientific approach to asking questions of a tool like this? And actually, relevant to this maybe is a number of folks have asked us just to ask you about things like, is it might it just be hallucinating, or might it have some sort of bias? And so just to get a general sense, and if I'm right, it's sort of a closed system, so you're getting evidence from the raw data. But maybe you can describe to us how you try to approach these kind of issues with AI.
Yeah, the hallucination issue is a major one. And to me, the way that I think about solving it, I'm not an AI engineer. I'm not a machine learning engineer. I've never built a system that can answer questions the way a GPT can. But I do believe it's important to understand how these tools work so that I can understand better how to control them. So in learning deeply about how does a GPT work, right? There's a lot of different AI models that we use inside Tetra. We use it for transcription. We have some simple engines for sentiment analysis and clustering of themes. And those actually aren't using large language models at all. Those are functions that have existed for years. So what we're focused on now are these large language models because they're so powerful and they can seemingly replace all the other AI functionality we've built as long as you can keep them on the rails effectively. So
Mm-hmm.
when you look at what does a GPT do and how does it work, I mean, what does a GPT stand for? It's a generative pre-trained transformer, right? So what the hell does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? Pre-trained means it's been trained on data that we don't have control over, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI, Google, whoever. They
Mm-hmm.
have sample sets of data and they're training them broadly so that they can be intelligent. But you can do fine tuning. So you can do custom training along specific tasks or along specific knowledge so that the pre-training can be actually improved or superseded by custom training. So we can't go into it here, but like the idea of fine tuning is a technical concept.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go to OpenAI's API area and the playground, you can see the fine tuning things you can do there. So that's one thing. How do we, at whatever layer of fine tuning, whether it's the technical or otherwise? The other one is, what is a transformer? What does that actually mean? What does it actually do? A transformer architecture is basically trying to improve the probabilities around the word selection algorithm. So I realize I didn't. The way that these LLMs work is it's basically guessing the next word that makes sense to
Mm-hmm.
provide, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as that, but the way that it changes is by increasing the probability of different words, right? So if you say like, um, complete the sentence, the dog chased the blank, right? That could be a ball, that could be a cat, that could be a car. But if I tell if I tell my GPT, I took my dog to the dog park, the dog is chasing blank. Now it's less likely it's a car. It's more likely it's a ball. Cat, I don't know, maybe less likely it's a cat. So all of the context you provide to these transformers increase the probability that the right, quote unquote, right word
Mm-hmm.
will be selected next. So what does that actually mean for a company like Tetra and anyone
Mm-hmm.
using tools? Providing context is critical. Providing organization context, providing project context, providing materials context, and this idea of chain prompting, which is why these chat
Mm-hmm.
interfaces are so helpful. You can provide context in your conversation with the pre-trained transformer model that exists there.
Mm-hmm.
So fundamentally, I think you have to have kind of a mental model of how do we get better results. And you can see it with people who are good using LLMs and those who are not good. Someone who's not good with using an LLM is going to give a short prompt and expect an answer. What should I do about I don't know, about my skincare issue, right? They're going to expect an answer. Whereas an expert user is going to give you, here's everything I've done already. Here's the information I've used. Here's what I learned that didn't work for me. Here's an article I read that seemed to be helpful. Now, what should I do for my skincare routine? The more context you provide, the better the results you're going to get. So that doesn't prevent the hallucination problem, but again, it will increase the
Mm.
probability that you're going to get the answer you want. Now, for a
Oh.
platform like Tetra, all that's in the background. And then what do
Mm-hmm.
we do on the front end? We force our chat interface, not the other interfaces, but the chat interface to provide supporting evidence for every answer it provides.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had to do some technical work to have a database that's searchable on the front end so the evidence can be referenced. And then on the back end, working with our assistant model to make sure that it's going to pull evidence that's referenceable from the transcripts. It should be straightforward, but none of that stuff works simply. So
Mm-hmm.
very, very long
Mm.
answer to your question, but I do, beyond like just
Yeah.
what software companies are doing to implement better solutions, the real solution is in end users understanding how these technologies work and experimenting, because the large language model chat interface in Tetra is very similar to the one if you go to chatgpt.com. You have to become an expert in the general aptitudes,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of which platform you're using these in.
No, it's fair, and it's amazing the differences you can get with, and you then get into like having like agents that are specialists that help you and so on from different contexts. So really interesting. And actually, I'm about to ask you about how your system works and showing us a demo, but along the way you mentioned context, and I think one of the things that's interesting about your tool is how you add context to your terms that you have that are coding data. So maybe we can just, you can, along the way, maybe we can show us a peek. But great. Well,
Absolutely.
you mentioned previously how someone might be using this. So let me see if I can't share your screen, and maybe just while I'm setting that up, you can give us context of kind of where we're going to start and what you'd like to show us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go into just a sample project, which is generative user research. So this is actually, if you sign up for a Tetra account, this project will load into your account so you could play around with it. And this is basically generative research that a company was doing to figure out what opportunities are there around road trip travel. So it's just a sample project that we're going to walk through now. So any other setup, John, before I just kind of jump into showing some of the key features I mentioned?
Yeah, so if I'm right, you've already collected the data, and so you're really just starting with live data, or recorded data. I'm sorry, looking at
Exactly.
how you can pull insights out and sort of initial look and dive in from there.
Yes. So this is your interviews are complete. You're now in the analysis phase. You are now looking at this data to try and learn things about it, structure it, et cetera. So again,
Sounds
we do
good.
have all of these live meeting tools, but we're not covering that. We're going to go into you've got data and you want to make use of it.
Got it.
So let me kind of first start with the fundamentals. So when you go into a conversation, you get to see all of the metadata associated with that. And you can use this for filtering, and you can use this in the analysis, the AI analysis features. Then in the transcript, you can see all of the annotations that are made. You can see some were made by TetraBot, some were made by me. They're all kind of treated the same. When you click into a snippet, which is our analyzed unit inside your qualitative data, you get to see the transcript text associated, the video clip associated. You can add tags from here. You can add to an insight from here, et cetera. There's a lot that you can do. But what I want to focus on is how can you automatically create snippets? So snippets have a lot of functionality, and we have a few AI features that allow you to automatically generate those snippets. So the first thing I'm actually going to show before getting to the snippets is the automated summary. I cannot overstate how automation on AI stuff actually gets people using it. So in Tetra, you can customize the summary that you get. You get this sent over email, and it's obviously available here inside the application. And the powerful thing about this is it's completely customizable. So you can basically create sections and prompts, and this is going to use a large language model to answer whatever question you put here inside your prompt. And if I give you some examples, right, you could put in things like reports. You could put in like email follow up. So let's say you're doing interviews with people, you want to automatically follow up with an email that lists their pain points and issues and how you address them. You can do that all from here. So a very simple feature, but this is when I was talking before about getting like salespeople or non-researchers using a platform like ours. Anything that gives them value without having to do any additional work is going to be the way to do that, especially like as a researcher insights leader inside an org. These automated summaries have changed the game for people who are contributing data.
And Michael,
um,
just to make sure I've
yeah,
got it, that what you've shown us now is a per interview summary.
Yes,
and that
exactly.
you can,
Every interview, yep,
yes, you can customize exactly what you want in that summary. That's really okay, cool.
exactly. And that'll come for meetings you run through Tetra as well as just recordings you upload. Um, the next thing I'm going to show is the features you were talking about, which is the automated tagging. We also have automated question answer identification. So the way that tagging works is basically when you run the auto tag on an asset, a research asset, it's going to apply the tag anytime this definition applies. So what this is actually doing is this is a prompt that goes into the large language model. So the more verbose and the more specific you are, the better your tagging is going to be. So some of our clients who have really great success with tagging, they're adding a lot of context to these definitions. Here's an example of what this would look like. Here's an example of what this shouldn't look like, et cetera. These can be extremely long. And I honestly believe that this is where a researcher, if they spend their time here and learning how these prompts can affect their auto tagging, they're going to save a huge amount of time and create a huge amount of value. Through Tetra, you can reuse tags across projects. Through our templates, you can copy tags across projects. If you get really good with these definitions, you can basically get consistently tagged data across huge amounts of your qualitative data. So
Uh,
really, really important, really, really helpful.
yeah, I was going to ask you. So yes, when I saw this, I was like, wow, that's a little different and really interesting. And I did want to ask you if this was meant to be, or your sort of best recommendation in using your tool. Is it these are sort of uh, I guess overarching for every project in your system, or it's more a per project kind of thing. And you mentioned both, but I wondered how people are using it and how you would like people to use it as well.
It's a really interesting question, and we've learned it's extremely difficult. So, most of our clients are very large global organizations where different teams are using the software and tagging data. And the same tag, the same metadata attribute by name could have a different meaning across teams, across orgs,
Mm-hmm.
even just across research projects within a single team. So, we have found the idea of getting universal
Mm-hmm.
tags that can be managed at an org level to be really challenging. So the approach that we take is kind of easy interusability across the application. So we actually suggest for our clients is to do that through templates. So instead of trying to have a set of tags that you use everywhere, try and get your team to use templates and then create tags within your templates so you get that consistency of reuse. So that's how we address it. Another thing that's very complicated about this is like point in time changes for what tags mean. So just because a tag meant something in Q1 of this year doesn't mean it's going to mean something different Q2 of next year. And that's something we see consistently. So keeping it to locally scoped to the project and making it consistent through templates, it's not perfect, but we found for our clients it works really well and still allows you to use searching on tags. So if you are using them consistently across projects, you get the same kind of access you would get if you did have universal tagging. But it is a difficult issue. There's no two ways about it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry if I took you a little bit. I guess I want you to keep right on going on your flow. So this was really interesting, though. Thank you for that extra time.
Yeah, absolutely. So automated tagging again, as long as you're defining these tags well, you're going to get good tagging results out of it. Another thing I should mention is you do have org context that's important to configure. So one of the things that can be really helpful when you are doing AI processing after the fact is making sure that your transcripts are really good. So we do have the ability to add like a custom dictionary so you could more further tune what is coming out of your transcripts. You also have options for adding other org data. So again, the
Mm-hmm.
more context you add, the better. So the other one we have for the auto snippet creation per interview is the question answer tagging. This is a very simple feature where basically you can build materials, whether it's an interview guide or a project overview or a sales script or customer success script, whatever it is. Um, Anytime you have a question, you could tag it with this TetraBot logo. And then when you run the automated question and answer identification, it's going to find anywhere that question was answered inside the transcript. So it's not looking for where the question was asked. You need not ask the question in order to find the answer for it. So, for example, salespeople might have 500 questions in here, and then we'll run the TetraBot to tag those moments. And then when they get into a conversation, they'll be able to see what the answer to that question was, right? So this was the answer to what is your experience with this topic? And she's talking about traveling. I travel multiple times a year, especially around the holidays, right? So that's the way the automated tagging works for questions. So yeah, it's kind of the two. Those are the two initial features we actually launched for our AI. We have a whole slew of new ones coming soon. But I think the most, I mean, it's no think about it. The most powerful feature for AI analysis in Tetra is the chat. So you can chat with a single conversation, with a single interview, or even more powerfully, you could select multiple interviews and chat with those. So here I just have five conversations. So I can see here I have a thread with these five conversations. And this works again like any large language model. So you can put in a request. So I said generate a report that covers the key themes, pain points, etc. And now TetraBot is giving me an answer to this that I can now use however I want. So if I wanted to, I could have a conversation, say refine this with something else, or now make this a report that I could share with clients about our product roadmap, or whatever you want. All the cool things you could do with a large language model. But the secret sauce for Tetra is in how we use the evidence. So you can see here, for every element of the answer, a quote is given. That quote is clickable, and that actually will take me to the exact moment from any of the conversations that are inside my chat data. And now I can see exactly where that quote came from. And now I can accept this as a snippet, and now I can add it to an insight, or I could change the note on it, etc. So all the piece of evidence, again, you see this little icon here, you can jump to it and then create a snippet from it. So
And
yeah, please go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I thought that was really interesting. And actually, and tell me if I'm taking you off what you plan to cover, but I actually, you mentioned you could add it to a snippet, or sorry, to an insight. And I actually thought that in itself was interesting. And so I, I didn't know if you had a chance to kind of show that flow or even describe it for us.
Absolutely. So that is my favorite feature in Tetra. So firstly, you have a snippet, you can add it to an insight from here. So you can create a new insight and add it to it from here, any of the evidence that pops up. But we added this feature here, which is turn this response into an insight. So when I click this button, I think I've already done this, so it's going to do it redundantly. So when I click this button, it's actually going to generate an insight over here. Yeah, here it is. This is the one it just created. So what this is doing is it's taking that text answer and creating a text report. So this is a shareable text report, just like any other text report, along with quotes embedded like you might expect. But what the magic of Tetra is that we're now associating these snippets with it. So not only are you getting an answer to your question, you're getting all the supporting evidence. You get all the features and functionality you would get with the supporting evidence. So I could play all of these as a highlight reel right here inside the application. I can export an MP4 of these. I can move these around. I can now add a snippet from other projects to this insight. And now I can share this with other people inside my organization. So that I could tell you that we've done some benchmark testing with our clients on like how much faster is it to do analysis with our TetraBot chat feature versus doing it manually. And generating these types of big verbose reports with evidence and insights for some of our clients, like an average project, it might take them somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks to do all of the reporting they want to do. These are
Mm,
enterprise companies doing deep
yeah.
research. We found our client could do the same level of reporting in 3 hours using this chat feature. And if you think about the time being saved, it's writing the report, finding the evidence, coding the evidence, creating video clips of it, making them shareable. All of that now becomes literally one click of a button after you've entered your prompt. And the really amazing part of this is when a stakeholder comes back with a question, you could jump right back into your thread and be like, someone mentioned that maybe this is only true for this cohort. What do you know about that? So not only are you getting really great reporting, that follow-up can be instantaneous. So our clients can have workshops where they're going over the results. They're getting a follow-up question. It's not now 6 days later you get an answer. Right now, we could get you an answer because of all the data and already having the context of what we asked and what we've reported. Again, all that doing this from scratch every time is hard. My bot now has the context of what I was asking, what I care about, et cetera. So really, really
Yeah.
powerful if you use it the right way.
I was going to ask because I kind of saw how could sort of essentially do the report for you in many ways, or at least have a summary that then I can use as a human and decide what the best pieces are that are relevant to my company or something. But I guess I did want to ask when I've got this logically, historically, I would make some sort of deck or would have a presentation. And I wondered if the stakeholders actually want to dive into this themselves or if they prefer this sort of more dynamic, insights page as opposed to a report. And so what are you finding?
It really varies by organization, by team, by person. We are finding some C-suite leaders are jumping into the data, inquiring about it, building their own reports. Some companies, it's exactly the same where they only want to see a printed deck at their weekly meeting. So it really varies, but I
Mm-hmm.
can definitely tell you that what stakeholders can do now wasn't possible a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, we might just be capturing that kind of unserved demand that existed there from
Hmm.
self-serving stakeholders. I think one of the promises of repositories, 4 or 5 years ago when they started coming out, was this self-service use case for stakeholders to go and now find the data they want. They can unburden the research team, the design team, by giving themselves access to data, and then further, democratizing research so anyone can execute research. And that was still limiting for people. But now, if you don't just have access to data and you have to go and click through and find your own insights, you can just ask questions and just get answers. That really does, I'd say, shorten the path to actually want to interact with this information and wanting to self-serve. I'd say like that is one of the killer features for large language models on top of qualitative data is you don't have to work hard to get value from it anymore. And just a year ago, that was not the case.
Mm-hmm. No, I very much agree. And interesting to see your sort of estimates of time too, and then massive reduction. Well, I did want to ask: is there? I guess I had a couple of questions. One was actually sort of, well, I can always ask for more and see what happens. So I guess one thing we've talked about is qualitative data so far, and I didn't know if I had some sort of survey data, or for that matter, I had old decks from years past. Are there things that I can add to this on top of qualitative data? And what you've got is very impressive unto itself, but I just wondered what I thought I should ask.
Yeah, in our roadmap is the ability to search through and use any type of content inside your analysis. Right now, it is focused on audio, video, and text. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't upload text data, you can't upload survey responses, but you code them the same way you would code an interview. So you can highlight the text, etc. So we are planning to release like PDF analysis and some PowerPoint presentation. That's all going to work basically the same way
Mm-hmm.
where we're extracting the text one way or another. I'd say not in our roadmap is quantitative data analysis and like
Mm-hmm.
the math side of surveys, but certainly the short responses, open-ended responses, our clients are using us for that right now.
Got it. And it makes sense that, I appreciate that you and some others that I've interviewed are like, I'm laser focused on this one, that turns out to be really relevant to many, many people in the organization, but one thing to do really, really, really well and thoughtfully. And so that's to be applauded. I, I think this is great. Was there? I think we've seen a lot of the major features. Is there anything else you want to mention, or have we? Are we good with showing pieces of Tetra here?
Yeah, I mean, our software is incredibly powerful. I think there's too much to show in even an hour demo, but
Mm,
the types of people who would benefit it from the most are someone who wants a place to run their end-to-end research and have all of that data accessible. And if you want other members of your organization to contribute, we're going to be the perfect platform. There are other platforms out there that do things that we don't do, right? We're not trying to replace like a Miro or collaboration spaces. We are really trying to be the workhorse for your qualitative data so you can get the data in and get it to where you need it to be. But yeah, I think we've covered the majority of it. I'd say, one of the
okay.
other big differentiators that's just worth mentioning is like, we really care about this stuff. This is my second enterprise research company. I started this business because I knew that qualitative research work was so powerful and was not being harnessed
Mm-hmm.
effectively. And there is a difference between, I think, people who, you see an opportunity and you try to exploit it versus I was experiencing these issues myself and I have a vision for how they don't need to exist. And that's definitely what it's like working with Tetra, right? We all care a lot about this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it kind of depends on the vendor relationship you like. We care about our clients and try to get good outcomes. It's not really just about selling our tool; it's about solving their problems.
Sure. And you answered well and anticipated my question about kind of how did you get inspired to do all this and become a, product owner and all the pain and good stuff that comes with that. Um, is there anything that you feel is like a important milestone or achievement that you've had that you're particularly proud of? I know it just takes hours and hours and dedication to make these things come to life. Is there anything that stands out that you're like, yeah, I'm so glad our team got this done?
There's a lot of things. We've accomplished so much in the last year and a half on our new platform. We launched an entirely new platform, as I mentioned, a year ago. So all of that work has paid off tremendously. And I think the thing I'm proudest of, and this is one thing that we were optimizing for, is it's something you alluded to at the beginning. Things are changing so fast. And when we first started building Tetra, there was definitely an idea like we could build some fundamental features and we've solved a large portion of the problem. But it became very clear after a couple of years that the pace of iteration is how we're going to be most valuable for this type of technology. The enabling technology in the background is changing so rapidly. So when I first built
Mm-hmm.
the MVP in like the beginning of 2019, transcription was expensive and not ubiquitous and
Yeah.
not that reliable. So in 5 years, we've gone from transcripts are expensive, time consuming, and unreliable to now they're free and everywhere. So for us, we actually our original pricing model was based on minutes of transcription because that's how like similar platforms
Yeah.
were being charged back then. That no longer makes any sense. So I'd say the thing I'm proudest of is we have built the ability to iterate every day. We're releasing updates to our software every couple of weeks, new functionality and features. And that is not, if you've ever been someone who's building software, getting your team to being highly iterative, highly productive, and actually shipping things to production all the time, it's a complete game changer. And that's where we are now, which is exciting, right? We fell behind and need to rebuild our technology. And now we can always be on kind of pushing the envelope of what's possible.
You know, yes, that is impressive, and I appreciate your get it out and being dynamic in this environment. So I guess I had a let me ask you a little bit about that and how you see things changing. And I had a question about, where do you see your product and this whole research approach evolving over the next few years? And that's, of course, silly. We should really think in terms of months at this point. But how do you see your product evolving? And if you were doing discovery or generative research, like you said, how do you see that evolving or how we might approach it differently going forward?
As you said, it's very difficult to predict the future, but I think there are some things we know for sure. The expectations on research and insights work and the personnel assigned to it has changed drastically in the last 2 years. And it's accelerating because of what the expectation around AI is. So we've seen already our client companies, researchers laid off, product managers and designers being forced again to do research themselves and still having that same skill gap. So our perspective is that we need to enable people to do high quality insight work. I do believe that a big part of that is going to be doing less of the simulated primary research done by researchers and more like on the quantitative data side where you let organic data collection be the majority of what you're looking at. I think that's the big change that's coming. I could definitely be wrong about that because the stickiness of primary in-depth research is tremendous and they are so valuable. However, as budgets are changing and people are expecting research work to be more commoditized, which I just showed you it
Mm-hmm.
is, right?
Right.
And I think one of the terrifying things is like I've worked with I don't know 400 researchers in my career across companies and that I've employed myself or worked with directly. This ChatGPT is a top 10 researcher I've ever worked with in terms of its ability to synthesize findings and meaningful insights. And that sounds absurd, but it's the truth. So I think there's going to be more pressure on being able to use these tools effectively. And I don't see researchers being hired in droves again. I think generalists who are capable of doing research work is probably the trend. And I can't say whether that's good or bad. I can just tell you that that's what's happening. And a company like ours needs to build tools that support whoever is doing this work. And I'd say that's how I see this changing. It's less
Mm-hmm.
specific to experienced researchers, designers, and it's more we need to know about our customers, our users, our stakeholders, and we need to get information from subject matter experts and use all of that. So I think that's kind
Yeah.
of where things are going. And for us, it's about understanding those other users and making sure we're not just building super tools for researchers.
Fair enough. No, it is interesting how fast this is evolving and what roles people need to play. Um, well, I do want to make sure that people get a chance to try this. So if they did want to give it a try, how can they get started?
Yeah, if you go to tetrainsights.com, you'll see there's a free sign up. You can click get started. You'll get a 14-day free trial. And if you send me a message and say you heard about it, a message to this chat who said you heard about this podcast, we'll upgrade you to a 3-month free trial. So yeah, feel free to go and do that, or you can schedule a demo through our website as well. But yeah, very, very excited to see how people use our software. It's changing every day. And we are trying to be one of those places where you can try new things as AI is evolving. So I'm excited to see what comes.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry, I do have one last question because it is a
Please.
little unusual. You you have an enterprise version, and I noticed the things like PII redaction and so on. With our healthcare kind of groups and other group, people with sensitive banking data and so on. Can you just tell us briefly about that and what's possible?
Absolutely. So the level of concern around the data that's going into AI models is higher than I ever expected it to be. People are very dubious in two cases. One is of their personal company data training models, and two is that they have just another leaky point where customer information is available. So what we have done is we have a variety of transcription redaction tools so that you can automatically pull out information from your transcript. So there's like a whole bunch we have pre-coded in, like healthcare information, birthdays, financial information, et cetera. You can customize those as well. So we have some clients who they might be getting some specific information they don't want inside the transcripts available for everyone. So you can control all of that inside Tetra. It doesn't redact it from the audio and video, so there is still the source file issue, but that has been mitigated to a degree because that data, the video files do not go to the large language models, or it's just the
Mm.
transcripts that go there. So it is, there are questions, about how much data should we share with these large language models because a lot of our clients are asking about machine vision type stuff. Can you see what's
Mm.
actually happening on a screen and process that? But that means we now have to send full audio and video to our large language model partners, which we can do, but it opens up another potential for leaky information. So yeah, we also have like data deletion features, so you could schedule projects to automatically delete. That's been really helpful for
Mm.
enterprise. I'd say the most helpful thing is locking things down by role, so making sure
Mm.
only specific people can access different features inside the app. But yeah, the privacy security concerns are growing all the time, especially we work with these really large organizations. There's new requirements constantly, so we're always trying to provide tools that helps with that. But it is definitely as more data is being just captured and utilized, these challenges keep growing. We try to automate some of it away, but it honestly does require like an information security officer working with your vendors to make sure that you're actually getting the compliance you want, not
Mm.
just check the box, but the
Yeah.
kind of safety that is important for your org.
Very nice. Well, at some point, Michael, I've just got to let you go, but it's been so interesting. Thank you. And this is exactly what I was hoping to cover. So I just want to say thank you for sharing Tetra with us, and I'll sign us off. So everyone, that's everything for today. Thanks so much for tuning in and keeping up on the latest on AI for UX research. And subscribe and let us know in the comments what other tools you'd like to feature next. And make sure you take up Michael's offer. And wishing you all brilliant insights with AI.